Good evening, everybody. This is a special meeting of the Township Board to interview engineering firms. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since this is a public meeting, we'll start with any comments from the public. Do we have any? We only have one resident here. Okay, very good. So with that, we'll start. Derek, I'm going to turn it over to you for introductions.
Sure. As was discussed, I think, at our previous meeting, we're planning on interviewing two candidates for bridge engineering services for the Groseal Toll Bridge. The first candidate for submittal that we're reviewing this evening is H&H. These two fine gentlemen have come down from Okemos to answer your questions, but also give a brief overview of their submittal. So I'll give the floor to them for an initial explanation of their proposal, about a 15-minute short presentation, or shorter than that, and then obviously they'll be available for your questions. So with that, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight, first and foremost. My name is Mark Holinsky.
I'm Jared Heinze.
Before we begin, I want to show you a physical copy of a sample report that we produce typically for our detailed inspections. What I'm passing out there is from this fall's 2023 routine detailed inspection of the International Bridge in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. So please feel free to look through that as we're going through our presentation. Our project team, we are the prime consultant. We're based out of Okemos, Michigan. Jared and I are. A lot of our crew is also based out of Okemos, Michigan. Thank you. Except our specialty engineering people, our mechanical and electrical engineers come up from New York City. That's where they reside, and the group that we proposed to work on this project, they've worked with us on numerous detailed movable bridge inspections in the state of Michigan over the last 8 years. We'll be taking care of the main swing span truss and the approach span trusses, the mechanical, electrical, and structural inspections, and the load rating of those facilities on the main bridge. Fishbeck is a subconsultant to us on this bridge. They will be helping us with some project management. They'll be doing the inspection of the approach girder bridge. That's 500 feet west of Meridian Road. They'll be conducting their own separate load rating of that structure and a separate standalone report on that. They will also be helping us out on the toll facility inspection and all the approach roadway inspection, including signs, light structures, all ancillary off-bridge structures. Great Lakes Engineering Group is also a subconsultant on our team for this inspection. They will conduct all the underwater inspection and supply a separate standalone report. A little bit on our org chart. I will be the project manager for this project. My boss out of Minnesota, Ann Zweibel, will be the QA/QC engineer. Raja Gilda, a good old friend of mine from Fishbeck, will be a deputy project manager on this inspection project. On our side of things, for the main structures, the swing span and the approach trusses, Austin Urban from our Okemos, Michigan office will be the lead QTL for the entire project. So he'll oversee not just the structural work, but he'll be in coordination throughout the field work for the entire week with our mechanical and electrical engineers. And he has worked on projects like this with the same team multiple times. Jeremy Vanlenberg was also a inspector and a QTL for this project. And as we'll present to you here in a little bit, the reason for having two, we'll spell that out for you. Our lead electrical engineer for the project will be Raymond Lopez. He'll be coming in from New York City. He's been on every single MDOT movable bridge in this state as an electrical engineering inspector. Lead mechanical is Kevin Campy. He's also been on almost all of the movable bridges here in the state of Michigan. As for load rating, Austin Urban's going to have a dual role. He's also going to be our lead load rating engineer for the project. Our support staff, Jared Heinze, who's introduced yourself to here just a moment ago. Jared and I have done a lot of inspections together, including the sample report that you have passing around there on the International Bridge. Evan Campow out of our Okemos office is another support staff member. We have Conrad and Christine coming in as support staff for electrical and mechanical. They'll be coming in from New York City as well. Fishbeck, like I said before, they're going to lead the charge on the inspection of the multi-girder approach bridge near the intersection of Meridian Road. They will also be conducting the toll facility inspection and load rating of that multi-girder structure. The underwater efforts, again, are going to be done by Great Lakes Engineering Group out of Lansing.
So one question we had when we were presented with this task, we didn't know how we were going to inspect the underside of this structure. As you know, it's a very narrow structure, and it got us scratching our heads, what can we do about this? Because utilizing the MDOT State Reach-All crew, they are difficult to procure, and getting them locked down for a week is tough. Scheduling them is tough. But moreover, the truck is too heavy. The bridge is posted, the toll bridge is posted, so it's not feasible for us to utilize the State Reach-All crew. So instead of that, we were proposing to utilize a bucket boat, which, there. So these bucket boats, Mark's used them in a previous inspection. So he can tell you more about that, but this will allow us to actually get the underside, not impede any traffic, so we don't necessarily need to close the lanes. Moreover, we can get all the upper and outside panel points of the entire truss structure. So that's really beneficial for us when we have to potentially look at a panel point that's particularly bad. We can flag it, we can note it, and we can come back to that later, and we can check it out from the inside utilizing potentially a man lift. So we have some options here to keep the bridge up and operational, because the reach-all just isn't an option for this structure. We just can't do it.
I'll try to back up one more slide here. The previous slide here, this is actually on the Free Bridge. And you can see the reach-all truck the wheels are right on the center line. When we were performing this inspection in September of 2022, what Wayne County did is they brought dump trucks in and just closed the bridge. So the entire time the inspection was in process, the bridge was closed. And we understand that the Grosse Ile Bridge Company is not going to like that idea. Of course, your average passenger vehicle you get through there, but any kind of a box truck of size cannot pass through here while the reach-all's on these bridges. Back to the bucket boat. This is actually an inspection I was on. I'm actually in the basket of that bucket boat. This is Highway 12 over the Muskogee River outside of Sacramento, California. Caltrans wanted no bridge closures to traffic, none. We got them to eventually agree to 3 or 4 hours from a cherry picker on the bridge, but that's after we identified key aspects that needed further inspection from internal side of the truss from that bucket boat basket, which Jared just talked about a little bit. The photo on the right, we had a boat going through, so the boat driver from Harcon Industries, he goes, "Hey, you guys want a better look at the boat coming through?" He says, "Yeah," so he put us up in the air. The photo on the left is us looking at one of the upper panel points of the swing truss. This photo here of the man lift is actually from the Free Bridge as well. A little narrower than a reach-all truck, but you can still see here that there's a cone down. Why? It was hit by a vehicle. Still very narrow. Very tight passage on these structures, so it is something we take seriously. It's not just for our safety, but we don't want motoring public, getting in an accident on the bridge. Regarding the structural inspection, let me just go through the highlights of that. Again, Hardesty, our team, Jared and I, Austin, Jeremy, will be inspecting the steel grid decks, all truss components, including the stringers, floor beams, truss members, gusset plates, cross bracing, you name it, everything that's there, we're going to be looking at it hands-on. The bridge barrier railings, the bridge deck joints, the bridge bearings, and the concrete foundations above water, and Great Lakes Engineering Group will handle anything below water. The mechanical inspection, headed up by Kevin Campy, they'll be mainly looking at the mechanical components of the swing span truss, including but not limited to the swing span pivot bearing, the swing span balance wheels, the drive machinery, all the end lifts, the gears. The picture on the right is actually from the toll bridge of our inspection that we did in 2004. They'll also be looking at the drive shafts and couplings. We will be handling all the electrical inspection components of the swing span truss, including but not limited to, on the right is the control panel of the toll bridge. All control system components, all the instrumentation devices, navigation lights, system interlocks, junction boxes, any kind of electrical box. If we have access to it, we'll open it up, we'll give it a thorough inspection. We'll do wire traces. Everything related to electrical will be handled by Raymond Lopez from our New York office. The approach roadway girder bridge, 500 feet west of Meridian, that inspection will be conducted by Fishbeck. They'll be looking at the top and bottom of the deck, all the beams, the barriers, and the bearings, and the substructures above water there too. I imagine that they would probably do the front of the foundation walls from a kayak or something similar to that nature. That's on them to do for the project. Fishbeck will also be doing all the approach roadway inspection. They'll be taking inventory of pavement cracks, how many total linear feet of certain widths of cracks, looking at all the guardrail, lampposts, signs, and of particular thing that they'll be looking at here on this structure is the approach causeways. You can see on the photo on the right, they'll be looking at those embankments for any erosion pockets and things of that nature, and making notes of that in their inspection process, while they're looking at all the approach roadway stuff between the multi-girder bridge to the west and the main bridge, and then all the way through the toll facilities. Speaking of toll facilities, Fishbeck will be conducting that inspection too. Of the canopies. Oh, okay, I lost my screen. The canopies, the toll booths, the prefab modular office building just to the right of the toll facility, and the other prefab modular building just up the road from the main toll plaza. As for the underwater inspection of this project, that'll be handled by Great Lakes Engineering Group out of Lansing, Michigan. They'll be inspecting all the underwater elements, the concrete foundations, the timber dolphins, the timber fenders that protect the swing span when it's open. And they'll produce a standalone underwater inspection report for the project.
Question on that, if I may. I don't know if this is the right term, but sonar is something that's able to look within the underwater piers. Are you all doing anything like that, or no?
They can, and they have used that,
Mhm.
and it depends on how murky the water is.
Okay.
There's times where they don't need to use that equipment.
Okay, gotcha.
Typically, they don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
Typically, they have enough visual underwater,
Mhm.
even to get nice photographs of deficiencies underwater.
Okay, gotcha.
Load rating. Hardesty and Austin Urban out of the Okemos, Michigan office will be conducting a 3D analysis of not just the swing span truss, but the approach trusses. The unique situation here with a load rating of this complex truss structure is the modeling of this in 3D. the swing span truss, it's got its own unique geometrics. 3 of the 4 approach trusses are the same from 1913, but the first span east of the swing span has been hit by a freighter twice and knocked in the river. And we understand that that's going to probably have different materials since it was replaced. So it will not be identical. It's going to be close, but we believe it's going to need its own model to do a proper load rating of that span. So what it means is 3 separate models. So we'll do all that, and we'll prepare a standalone report for the load rating of the swing span truss and all of the approach trusses. Fishbeck will be responsible for the load rating of the approach span multi-girder bridge. That's a more less effort to produce a load rating for a multi-girder system. While in their inspection process, they'll be looking for the girder under that bridge that has the most deficiencies. I have doubts that they're going to have section loss properties at mid-span and high moment. That's where things get crazy bad on you really quick. I just looking at this picture, I imagine that if we have deficiencies on these beams, they're going to be at the abutment walls underneath the leaking joints at each end because they all leak. And those load ratings are not as severe because you're looking at shear problems, which are not as drastic as a moment problem. As for report, I hope you all had a time to leaf through the sample report I handed out there. That's a very good representation of what we would be producing for this report, for this project. We would have a written condition assessment for immediate repairs within the next 3 years. The RFP asks for another assessment for future repairs, and we would come up with what you all would agree on, 10, 15, 20, whatever you want. We could also do multiple multi-year future condition repair studies. We'll supply deficiency sketches, deficiency photographs. We'll have a photo log that will be turned in with the report. You'll get all of our photos, not just the ones that we include in a written report. International Bridge, we had 1,500 photos. You'll get them all. We will provide replacement preservation options and associated costs. We will update the bridge safety inspection report and the structure inventory and appraisal reports. Those are MDOT reports. If the Grosse Ile Bridge Company assigns those to us in the MyBridge system, we will update those. Any questions?
You did an inspection, previous work with the toll bridge, correct?
Hardesty and Hanover did an inspection in 2004. And Austin Urban, who is going to be our lead QTL, was on that team.
Right. There were some questions that I had regarding that report, whether repairs were done. As an example, I think there were 3 bearings that were out of line and therefore not supporting weight for the swing span in the manner originally designed. Are you going to be able to give us an update on whether work was done or not performed that corrected those deficiencies that were noted?
After our inspection, we would be providing you an update on those.
So we could look at that report and just, again, focusing on the bearings for a moment, we could have your input as to whether the work that was necessary was done, and that would be an explanation for the condition, partial condition on that portion of the bridge, and anything else that was in the report as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Second question, the bridge, as you noted, was built in 1913. I suspect many of the parts that were manufactured in 1913 would be specialty parts today. Are you going to be able to identify, will you identify replacement, the cost of replacement, expected longevity of some of those more expensive parts? I don't expect bolts to be itemized, but I would hope that the turntable may be something that if you're going to redo the gears, that's going to be a specialty and that would most likely cost you X amount of dollars in today's currency?
Kevin Campy, who will be leading the charge on the mechanical inspection, will supply all of that information to you. And he's preparing reports. He knows where the parts are available, where they're not, and he knows what the current day costs are, and he is very good on doing life cycle costs to determine what they would cost if you were to delay a certain repair to the future.
Another question that I have is when we look at the longevity of this bridge, the cost of replacement, what that would be. We have had guesstimates of $100 million on the county bridge, the free bridge, if that is a fair representation. $100 million today to replace that. This township has a $6 million annual budget right now. And it would be noted that we have to have a funding mechanism to not only maintain, either with a millage or with tolls or some combination thereof. The question is, how long will we have a 110-year-old bridge, and what is the life expectancy of that bridge, and would you be able to provide some guesstimate on that?
Upon completion of our inspection and report, we will be able to give you what we see from our field findings, what we think, how much longer certain components are going to last. And again, that's a prediction. You can never predict when something's going to go bad, but we will lay that out for you. Of course, not all of that equipment's original equipment, and in the inspection process, our mechanical and electrical engineers are very good at logging equipment dates, when it was installed. They'll look at all the records that are available to them too prior to even going out on the inspection. So we will supply that for you. And we will and can prepare a replacement cost for you for this project, if that's the course of action that you want to take.
It's one thing that I'm looking at because the township has that $6 million budget. If we buy this bridge, if we buy the bridge, we're going to need to know that we got it really right. Because if we get it wrong, it is a really big wrong. And that's what my concern is on that.
I understand your concern.
Okay, and I'm not trying to be unfair or anything like that. That's just what's on the table right now for me before I make a decision.
As for a ballpark figure, you said $100 million. We just completed the replacement design project for the Lafayette Movable in Bay City. The price for that is $112 million. So $100 million for that replacement is probably pretty close.
Frightening numbers.
First bridge I've ever done a design on that came in over $100 million. So yes.
In terms of, we've got the two engineering firms that we're interviewing. What sets you apart from the rest of the engineering firms that are out there? Not just the other one that's your competition, but what sets you apart other than you're both using Fishback, you're both using Great Lakes. We're doing an awful lot of work here. One of you is more expensive, one of you is cheaper than the other. What are we getting for our dollar that sets you apart?
In my opinion, with our in-house electrical and mechanical guys who we work with all the time, we are very close. We work together very, very well. Our coordination, it's like we know where each other's going to be. We know what each other's going to do. We know what time frames things take. We go the extra mile together as a solid 100% team. Structural, mechanical, electrical, we're very, very close, so we work very well together.
Final question. The litmus test I use with a project for my clients is, would I recommend this to my friends, to my neighbors, and to my family, because Christmas can be a very ugly place when you're seated at the table alone and nobody's talking to you because something has gone wrong. At the end of this project, I'm hoping to receive, and I'm only one of 7 people, but I'm hoping to receive, this is something I would recommend with maybe the following qualifications, but this is something that I would recommend to a friend, to my parents, to my siblings, and to my children, using a metaphor. Can you do that at the end of the day when we're done with this?
I could, absolutely. And honestly, as I stand here, I understand your concern about buying a bridge like this. This is a huge investment. As a project manager on this team, on this inspection, I'm going to be out there myself, overlooking this stuff. If we find stuff that's just not good, I would be the first person to tell you not to buy the bridge. I've seen a lot of them.
Thank you.
There are certain ones I would invest in, there are certain ones I would not.
It's the test that I would use. Thank you.
Mark or Jared, is there any part of the bridge that we won't, that if we had questions, we wouldn't be able to get answers on? If you did get this project, so it's going to be fully covered, we could ask you about anything, is that correct?
I think absolutely. The full detailed inspections, we're going to get into every nook and cranny possible. We will record every deficiency. I mean, with the international bridge inspection that we just did, that was 32 spans, very long, very large bridge. Every single deficiency is noted and tracked. Every single deficiency we try to take pictures of. We log it down, and then we will replicate that with sketches. We'll make sure that that's not only can we tell you about the deficiencies, we can show you the deficiencies with pictures, and we can tell you here's the extent of the replacements, here's some proposed replacements. But I think confidently, easily, we can tell you if you have a question on something, we can come back with an answer.
So we not only obviously want this inspection to see about putting together a possible bid to buy it, but also if we were to buy it, we would have questions regarding lifespans of things and what could be done to it. For instance, you're going to come out with a load rating. Is there anything that can be done, and what would it cost to increase that load rating? Things of that nature you'd be able to give us help on or answers
We would
on.
absolutely help you on that, and we'll take every call, answer every email. I don't even care if we're done with the project. You have a follow-up question, I'm going to answer your question. I personally get text messages from Carl Hansen at the International Bridge, 10 o'clock at night. He thinks of something. Can you look this up for me? Can you get this for me? My budget's gone, my fall project's done. I'm always on the phone. I'll always answer a question.
And one last question, when we get the report, who would be presenting it to us? Who would we be talking to about this report? Because we have various people doing various aspects of this. Would there be the representatives from, whoever did the underwater? Great Lakes, I think, was going to do the underwater. Would somebody be there to answer questions on that portion of the report? How would that work?
I would recommend that you go through me first, but any of the members of this team would be happy to come with me too. We come back here. I come back and talk to you anytime you want.
Okay.
And I think all the leads from the subconsultants would do the same.
Thank you.
Similar question, but obviously you're going to tell us the deficiencies, and that's important. We need to know what we're looking at in terms of short-term, long-term, repairs. I guess I'd also like to know what's good that we don't have to be concerned about for the next 15 years or You know, if this nut or bolt or bearing or that it's going to last for 20 years. It's not deficient, but I want to know that it's good for X.
That's an outstanding question. Typically, when in our reporting, we're picking on the bad. I'd be happy to give you a report on everything that's good
And I think.
and log it.
Mark-
What is good?
Yeah,
and
I think what he's asking for is, it's, you do your inspection today, and this is good today, but is it gonna be good a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Because that's important as important as, well, this is deficient and will need to be replaced next year.
we would be happy to break it down like that for you.
I think that would be helpful.
Yep, Joe?
In the beginning, you were talking about what you were going to check, what you're going to look at, and you did include the toll plaza. You did include, I realize there's two like prefab buildings there you said you were looking at. I'm not sure if I missed it, but I just didn't hear anything. Do you count now that roadway that goes, from where the property starts to the end of the bridge area down on Grosse Hill side? When you inspect the bridge, because the way this bridge is set and how the roadway is on it, obviously it's attached to the bridge. Do you do any looking into that to say that this will need to be changed in so many years? Because I know a road, like our roads out here, and we just went through this where Derek talked about the lifespan of some of our roadways out here. Do you ever do that with these bridges, and will you do it with this? Or do we have to go to a different individual to see if that roadway is intact, connected to the bridge?
The reason why I have Fishbeck on this team with us at Hardesty and Hanover is because of their expertise in things like that. And they would do that for you as part of this project.
Okay.
That's outside of my gear house, because I'm into the gears, but I do bridges.
Just to clarify, the limits of the inspection extend beyond just the bridge itself, but also to the roadways at the limits of.
Correct. I think early on, when I was preparing this response, you said the 300 to 500 feet to the west of the toll facilities and like almost up to the intersection at Meridian Road, correct?
Yes, that's
That's what we anticipate looking at, all of that
pump house,
roadway surface.
if you know where that's at.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure that everything is covered. Because, just one comment, though. When I was reading through this, and you're showing me everything that is going to be checked. Now, obviously, maybe some of these individuals on the board, I have no, education in bridge engineering and parts and things like that. So I guess, and Jim asked the question, is there anything that won't be checked? And that's basically the answer is no, we will be checking everything.
Well,
almost.
well, sometimes, okay, I can say on an MDOT structure where they have people with keys to everything, everywhere, not working with the Grosse Hill Bridge Company before, myself personally, there may be an area that they can't get us to. We will look at everything that they give us access to. Now, we may be limited by them, but I don't know that.
And if you are, that'll be in your report, that you didn't.
Yes.
Absolutely.
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 Know that it wasn't.
100%.
Actually, I think on that note, if you could, you see, if you're denied access, for lack of a better term, we'd like to know about that right away
Okay.
and not wait until the end. You say, well, we couldn't, item C on our list, we couldn't make a recommendation or couldn't inspect because of some imposed or lack of permission. But if we knew about that immediately, we may be able to bring something to bear to make it accessible. That's
Correct. When I'm working with Kevin on mechanical and Ray on electrical and inspection of this type of structure, There's many times where I've been in a basket of a reach all coming down from above, and there's certain things that they can't get to from the bridge house or from the bridge towers or bascule piers. They'll jump in the basket with me. We'll take them for a ride. We'll drop them off down on a pier. We can get everywhere. Everywhere we can get to, we will get to it.
And just for the benefit of the board and also for the consultants, there were conversations that were had with the bridge company. They are fully supportive and understand that there has to be access. Obviously, they want to minimize the inconvenience or closures, but they pledged to give access to the township and their consultant to inspect what they need to inspect. So.
I do want to add, though, too, that when Austin Urban from our office was on the 2004 inspection, there were some areas that they did not give them access to. That did happen back in 2004. This is 20 years later, but you don't know.
And as long as we're aware of that, that's the main thing.
Right.
Mhm.
We would be made aware of
Absolutely.
that.
Piggybacking off of Carl a little bit about the replacement costs, theoretically, if it's well maintained, it can be possible you don't have to replace a bridge, right? Or is there always a replacement at some point needed?
Okay.
Depends.
Your everyday common highway bridge,
Mhm.
we're looking at 100 years these days. A movable with thousands of moving parts, you have fatigue by all the movements. Open, close, things wear out.
Mhm.
We love to think that we get 75 years out of a movable, brand new. Okay, now to get it to 75 years, you're doing maintenance continuously to get it that far. And you can, and it has happened.
Okay, gotcha. And I think you were probably speaking on this earlier, but I know you had an inspection of the county bridge, and I just noticed the cost of that was less. Was that because it was closed and it was easier for you to do that, or?
Not only was it closed, but that was not a detailed, that was a routine,
Gotcha.
semi-detailed inspection. It wasn't a full detailed like you guys need to make a decision on whether or not you want to buy this bridge. That also did not include a load rating at all.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
What? I missed
Load rating.
When they were working on the free bridge, on the county bridge, it didn't include a load.
There was no rating, no load rating performed on that. And the scope of work was not as far as this scope of work.
Understand. Thank you.
Just and this is just to your team. You're bringing people in from New York. Is there any reason why you're bringing people in from New York rather than using somebody local?
They are specialists. There are very limited people with expertise that are PEs, professional engineers in the mechanical and electrical realms with a specialty on bridges. These guys have been doing it for a long time. And we're not inspecting every day. We do more designing every day. It's not practical to have people in our office every day of the week as a professional mechanical and electrical engineer in Michigan.
Anybody else?
In the 2004 report, you indicated that you were not able to examine the bridge in a closed position, that is, where it was open to navigation. I'm assuming it's going to be examined this time with a more thorough and a detailed report, as you've just referred to. What is the expectation for traffic closure on the bridge when you do something like an examination of a bridge that is open for nautical traffic? How much time are we talking about? Are we looking at 6 hours at a time? Are we looking at 2 weeks at a time? What's the time frame?
No, what the mechanical and electrical guys do precisely is they plan it out. Now, they may do it through a series of bridge openings
Right.
to break that down. So it is not an inconvenience to the travel way. They're not going to ever take it down for 6 hours at a time. I think if I had to guess, on average, maybe the maximum is 15, 20 minutes at a time. And if they need to come back, close it, let traffic vent, reopen it, then they'll do that.
Okay, so we're looking at intermittent, short-term closures.
Very intermittent.
Recommendation regarding maintenance. It is one thing to say, we're going to paint the Mackinac Bridge every 5 years. We start in St. Ignace, and it takes 5 years, and then we go back, scrape, sand, paint, and do it all again every year for 5 years more, and keep doing that. The detail that you're going to provide with bridge maintenance to give us that Coliseum experience where it's been around for 2,000 years or something. What is going to be the detail with the maintenance you're going to provide? Jim has talked about parts that we may be able to see, may be able to access and can predict. And then there's other parts that we're not going to be able to do. What is your maintenance report going to be in terms of telling us what we need to do for the future?
Our mechanical and electrical guys get way more down in the weeds on that type of report, because those are the items that wear out more on a movable bridge, are the mechanical and electrical items. From my past experience, those guys would give you recommendations along those lines for everything that's out there. Every piece, every part.
So for example, that could mean replace these gears within 3 years because the gauge is slightly off on them, they're warping, or grease this every month, or grease this every 3 months, and it'll be broken down per element. A lot of greasing, a lot of gears. So,
And also a lot of the mechanical electrical parts, they have such an in-depth knowledge, the manufacturer of that particular part, when that part was discontinued, they know how long it's been in service, where it came from, when, what the lifespan of those individual parts are, and they've always got recommendations for best replacement parts too, and where to get them from.
a lot of the electrical, it's not done like this anymore, right? This bridge from 1913, they don't wire it like that. So Ray will come through and he'll say, look, they don't do this anymore. The best solution is this. Here's how, rip this out, put this in, and he'll make that clear about what pieces should be replaced if it's a hazard, or what are not done like this typically, but they're still satisfactory for the future. So it'll all be broken down.
I have a quick question. So you mentioned earlier the average lifespan of a movable bridge made today is about 75 years. Ours is about 110 years old. So I assume they either made bridges a lot better 100 years ago than they do now, or we're already kind of looking at buying a clunker. It sounds like a little bit. So I assume your executive summary is going to have some recommendations, right? Like, hey, listen, this thing's shot, full rebuild, or are you picking up what I'm putting down?
The scope of work didn't specifically ask for that, but I would generously supply you that information.
Okay.
I would do that.
I just want to make sure, we're not buying a 1978 Buick with bad head gaskets and exhaust leaks. And,
I understand.
So,
I understand.
all right.
And I think you touched on that already, that you'd be telling us that this is probably not a good one.
hmm
Other questions?
I mean, the best option may be a replacement.
Or-
We won't know that until we've been out there and can see everything.
We've worked with clients before, namely a project I worked on and inspected for the city of Milwaukee, where the replacement option was cheaper than rehabilitation. Inspected the whole thing and said, wow, this thing is not looking good. And they said, and this was a movable bridge that was being converted to a fixed bridge. It was no longer a navigable channel. And we said, look, this is just going to be cheaper to replace the thing. And they came back and said, no, historically, this has some importance. We'd like to rehabilitate it. So they opted for the more expensive option. So you can always throw a lot more steel at stuff and make it last longer, but maybe that's not worthwhile. And we will lay that out for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of replacement, it's my understanding they don't makes, you're not going to replace the swing bridge with a swing bridge? It'd be some other type of bridge, or no? Am I wrong on that?
There's a lot of factors that go into that. A lot of factors.
So-
Roadway alignments. Where do you want it to be at? Are we keeping this one here while we're replacing? Are we shutting it down? There's how big of an opening do we need? There's a
There's a
whole
lot
of
that
discussion.
goes
Yeah,
into
that's
it.
a lot.
But would it be, I mean, normally would you replace it with the same type of bridge?
Not necessarily. In fact, when we're looking at replacements, we could break it down into a swing bridge, a bascule, a lift, a high-level fixed bridge. It may be cheaper to go with that. We could break it down into all those different variables.
All right. Thank you. Anything else, gentlemen, ladies? All right.
I've just got a real quick question.
I'm sorry,
And I
Derek,
apologize, I stepped out, so maybe the answer was given to this question. But when I look at your schedule, you have a start date in March. And it looks like it's 90 days as was specified in the specification. If you were to receive this job, and you were authorized, let's say it was approved middle of this month, end of this month, something like that, is your March start date based upon a January authorization, or is it based upon a February authorization or a March authorization? I guess my question for you is, if you were given authorization in the middle of March, could you actually start sooner than what you're listing here, which is March 1st? Or is that based upon weather conditions and other factors like mobilization and availability?
That was based on only weather. That date could start and end at any date, but it would be upon availability of that bucket boat. They have multiple boats, and I don't think that would be a great difficulty and have any kind of a significant push on the schedule either way. But I don't know that for a fact because I haven't dialed in a date with them. But that schedule could be moved linearly practically anywhere. Now, we don't want to be out there, well, it's still really sub-zero, but that's variable. And we're flexible with that.
I just got one
Yeah,
last question.
go ahead, Joe.
Were you going?
No.
You know, I know when you talked about what is in your purview or what you do, unfortunately, right next door to the bridge is a Superfund project and a cleanup going on. And Kyle on the end of the board here and myself are involved in it's a citizens action group that just gets information that we can relay to the township. Have you ever been involved in anything so close to that type of environmental problem that may spill over into here, but you're the structural area, not the soil area? I get that. Is there anything that you would recommend, though, once if you see or you know that it's there? That, because we're a township and we're going to have to buy it. Wait, let me back up. We're the township that may buy it, not have to buy it. But if we do buy it, we want to make sure everything is correct from every part of that property, if you will. Have you ever had anything so close to what you've done?
I had a project years ago where the foundations were much closer to the edge of a river, and we had leaking gas tanks on a site on one of the quadrants of the bridge, and there was heavy concern of gas seepage into the waterway after we were to begin excavation for the replacement of the abutments on a river's edge, and it was highly sensitive. Here, being that the main foundations are out on a causeway, I don't foresee that being a potential concern, but you never know till you get into it a little deeper. How close was this hazardous site? What quadrant are we talking about?
It's directly to the south of the bridge property.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that is actually
Kyle
a
may
good
know
question.
more.
Is that outside your scope to do, like, I don't know, soil samples or something like that? Yeah.
That was not included in
Yeah.
our scope.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. The thing I know that leaks out right there, there's the McGuagan Creek goes right by the toll bridge there, is calcium hydroxide from the north side of that site. So it's not something like a heavy metal or something that accumulates over time, but it does result in like that creek gets white, caustic, and fish die in there. So that is I know something that's leaking just right there off of that part right there.
The only way that would become a concern is if, let's say, for instance, you're replacing the pavement up near that area where you have to excavate down anything substantially below ground surface. That would open that up as being a concern. On our Lafayette project here, which is about to get built this spring, the beginning of it, there was a hazardous site in one of our quadrants there too. And even in the topsoil stripping procedure for just general groundwork and grading at that bridge, all of that topsoil has to go to a particular waste facility. And I understand your concern, it's not cheap. Very expensive.
Okay, thank you, though.
Thanks. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
coming
gentlemen.
in. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having us down tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Feel free if you have any questions after the fact to get a hold of us. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
As was discussed previously, we received 2 proposals for bridge engineering services for the Groseal Toll Bridge. We had our first presentation at 5 o'clock. This is our second one from Modjeski and Masters. As we had talked about before, first 15 minutes or so is a presentation covering the proposal that was submitted, brief introductions, explanation of the scope of services that they've been requested to provide, and their means and methods and how they're going to address that, and then the balance of the 45 minutes being questions and answers from the board. So with that, you guys are on the floor to give your presentation and introductions.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for the invitation to introduce the Modjeski team and present our proposal in person. We are confident our experienced team of engineers and certified inspectors can meet your expectations for the structural evaluation, and we are eager to dive into the details. I'm Laura Rampersad, the office leader for our Michigan practice. I'm here to share what makes M&M the right selection for this project. M&M is a nationwide leader for design, inspection, and rehabilitation of movable structures. We bring 40 engineers dedicated to movable bridges and 39 certified inspectors. On average, M&M is inspecting a bridge like yours every 6.5 working days, and clients have trusted us for decades to monitor the structures. Our project manager, Brad, will walk through a couple projects we included in our proposal, share his experience in Michigan, and also his knowledge of this specific bridge. He will also address how this team will assess your structure in the 90-day schedule. Finally, we have left a good amount of time to answer your questions for the end of the thing. Our goal is to provide an objective engineering evaluation, one you can rely on for this significant acquisition. We brought the key staff from each major area to answer your questions, and any of them will be able to answer those directly. The person there on our left is Bradley Cooper. Got it. He has 21 years of experience, all with Modjeski and Masters. He's a certified inspector, and he will be leading all aspects of this of the project. Lee Lenz, there you go. He is with a mechanical engineer that's with our movable bridge group. I'm calling him the maestro who coordinated our cost proposal and this presentation. So he will be the leader during the Q&A period. Myself, I will be monitoring the project to make sure that we're meeting our goals and objectives and timelines, and assisting the team in compiling the report. Mike Mitchell there. He will be our second set of eyes to analyze this structure and will lead the load rating task. And this will include hands-on viewing of the structure. And last but not least is Matt. He will lead the underwater portion of the inspection. And the firm that he's with, Great Lakes, will also assist on the above water inspection. We have collaborated with Great Lakes on numerous inspections throughout the state, and together we have been selected for multiple contracts, and we have current contracts where we do load ratings and inspections together. So we have a good working relationship with this firm. Modjeski and Masters can provide the complete life cycle services for your structure and is especially adept at analyzing unique and aging structures. We conduct our evaluations with the highest integrity. When we take on projects like this, our engineers represent the bridge, and you will receive a true and comprehensive assessment. We are a bridge firm with 230 loyal employee owners. Our reputation is solid and has been recognized by our peers, and our projects have received national recognition. At this time, I would like to turn this over to Brad, our project manager, to cover the technical portion of this presentation.
Thanks, Laura. Just a second here. As presented in our proposal, our team will consist of M&M Fishbeck and Great Lakes Engineering. We've brought on Fishbeck and Great Lakes partially to provide their expertise in the fields of load rating and underwater inspection, but they're also going to be involved with the on-site inspection so they can give a fresh set of eyes on the project. They're going to also help do the review of the report and any of our deliverables to make sure that we're giving an unbiased opinion of the condition of the bridge. And I'll talk a little bit, excuse me, about some of our relevant project experience, both nationwide and specifically within Michigan. Most recently, we did inspect the toll bridge in July of this past year. This is going to give us a lot of efficiency in our inspection. We know what to look at and where to find what we need to know for the load ratings and the asset management plan. We've, like Laura said, we're on the as-needed load rating services through the statewide contract with MDOT, providing load ratings all over the state. We recently did the movable as-needed inspections for the Wayne County, and this included the Parkway Bridge. We were with Great Lakes on that as well. Great Lakes has also teamed with us on the load rating project. We performed a complete rehab of the Grand Haven Bascule Bridge. This included structural, mechanical, and electrical services. We also did the Bagley Avenue pedestrian bridge in Detroit, using some of our rope access and instrumentation services on that. And our experience in Michigan goes back to about 100 years when we designed the Ambassador Bridge. And we have stayed on with Ambassador and have been their continuous engineer since 2001, doing all their load ratings, rehab designs. We did asset management plans for them, construction management, all kinds of everything they could possibly need. And now I'll do a brief run through of our approach and schedule, our actual means and methods on this. As I said, we recently did the bridge inspection in July, so we're going to apply a lot of our efficiency to the project that we've learned. First thing, once we get notice to proceed, we're going to request and review a lot of information we can get from the bridge owner about the bridge. We have a lot of this information. We've reviewed it as it pertained to the condition inspection we did. But now we'd be applying that to the load rating and asset management and more those kind of details. At the same time, when we're doing the information review, we're going to be starting on getting the as-built load rating models started for the bridge. So basically, for a load rating, you build a computer model of the bridge as it was when it was first built, and then you take things off for the wear and tear that it's had throughout the years to arrive at your final load rating. So we can get started on that with just the bare bones information. At this time also, we'll learn what kind of information we're missing from the details that were given by the owner. Things like member sizes may not be accurate, repairs over the years may not be shown, things like that. Once we have a full understanding, we're going to have a kickoff meeting with all partners involved with the project to discuss what we need, how we're going to find it, what needs to be looked at, and any kind of coordination that's needed with things like Coast Guard permits, any activities that might be going on around the bridge that we need construction or anything like that we might need to work around. Once we set an inspection date, we'll, of course, throughout this whole process, we're going to keep you all involved with the project, letting you know what we're finding along the way. We'll coordinate with you as far as getting out in the field. When we actually start the inspection, all portions of the bridge will be inspected above and below the water line. Because the bridge is currently posted for only 7.5 tons, we can't access the floor system or a lot of the structure from above with traditionally what you do is like a snooper truck or a bridge inspection crane. Those weigh around 32 tons, so they could not be put on the bridge, so all access will have to be done from the water. We are planning on using what's called a bucket boat, which is shown in this picture here. It's basically a pontoon boat with a 60-foot lift on it to get all access to all parts of the bridge, including the top cords. This is what we used in this last summer, and it works really well. We explored the idea of using a barge with a man lift on it, but they're very slow to move around, and these are very agile. And like I said, we're going to have inspectors. I'm going to be there as the team leader leading the inspection, and Great Lakes will have an inspector, and Fishbeck will have an inspector there, just so that we all can get on the same page with what we're finding and how we're going to portray the bridge. Basically providing a fresh set of eyes on it. Mechanical and electrical inspection can be done at any time. The issue with the bucket boat is that in most boats is that they won't put it in the water below freezing because it can freeze up the motors and stuff like that. The underwater inspection will follow the above water inspection because we don't want to have too many boats in the water getting around each other. As we collect any of the missing information that might have been out there that was missing for the load rating, we're going to transmit that back to the load raters immediately so they can apply that to the models. Likewise, immediately when we're done with the inspection, we're going to provide them with our as inspected conditions so they can start working on the load rating. We'll also begin on the draft inspection report, which will include recommendations for repairs throughout the structure. We'll also include cost estimates of what it's going to take to repair the different parts. When all the inspection reports, load ratings, underwater inspection are all done, we're going to gather all that information and put it into a asset management plan that will kind of lay out basically what it's going to take to keep the bridge as it is or improve it over the years, what needs to be done X number of years in the future, depending on what your needs and desires are. Also include in that any kind of operational upgrades that might be needed, safety upgrades, reliability, things like that, facility changes that might need to happen. And that was a very quick run through of what we're going to do, but we'll turn it over for question and answer now.
Question I have, and I don't, if I misword it, let me know. You just completed an inspection of this bridge a year ago.
Yeah.
Or less than a year ago. And I know that will provide you some basic information or information that you don't have to regather.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the two inspections were totally different.
Yes.
I'm sure you understand that was a maintenance, get it ready, keep it running. This is an inspection to buy this bridge. I'm assuming you will be looking at things in this inspection maybe that were not done because they weren't required or requested. And I'm skirting my question. You know, if you found something okay 10 months ago, 9 months ago, for our purposes, it may not be okay. How do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. We frequently get involved in what are called bridge preservation projects, where that's exactly what we're doing, is we're looking at not only what the bridge is right now, the condition is, we're looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And that kind of feeds into an asset management plan as far as you may need to replace joints in a few years. You may need to repave the bridge in 10 years. You may need to paint it in 15 years. And that's something that we frequently do. When we were here in the summer, we were doing what's called a condition inspection. So we were looking at, good, fair, poor condition of all the different bridge components. With this, we're going to be putting in more of an eye to looking at how it's going to be 5, 10, 20 years, whatever. Usually, when we do one of these asset management plan or bridge preservation projects, is we set a target year of how we want to make the bridge last for 30 years or 50 years or whatever it may be. And then we kind of back into all of the repairs that will be necessary for that kind of thing. And that will certainly play into what we look at. We're not going to just say, well, it passes. You get a thumbs up now, but this is a problem that's going to continue to worsen over the years. And that's kind of part of, we'll have prioritized repairs that we come up with as part of that. We'll have short-term and long-term maintenance items, things like that, safety issues, anything like that, things that need to be addressed in different time frames to make it last as long as you need it to.
Okay.
Electrical, mechanical will pretty much be starting from scratch and,
Yeah.
measuring every component.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and then on the electrical mechanical side will be complete 100%, start from scratch. And that's assumed, and we'll be measuring components for wear and producing those measurements in a report and testing, doing electrical testing and charting all of that. And yeah, we don't have the jump start that these guys have, and that is included in the work.
During last summer's inspection, the electrical and mechanical were not included as part of we did a cursory, does it operate kind of inspection. We didn't have the experts out with us. I mean, I've done enough movable bridges. I kind of know a lot of what to look for and listen to sounds and how things respond. But we did not have the electrical people and the mechanical to do the detailed measurements that they do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Was the inspection that you did a requirement of the new statutes regarding private
Yes.
ownership?
Yes, absolutely. It was done as a requirement of the new NBIS, National Bridge Inspection Standards, that require any private bridge to be, that connects to public roads on either ends, to be inspected by a qualified inspector.
Yours was a general inspection as opposed to a semi-detailed or a detailed
Yes.
inspection?
Yes.
So what we're going to be looking for is much more than that, and so that my questions to you are apples and apples compared with what the other team was asked. Township has a budget of $6 million. Replacement bridge for Parkway, free bridge as we know it, and as you know it, is guesstimated lightly at about $100 million. It is absolutely critical that we get this right and have an idea how long we're going to have a bridge before it becomes cost inefficient or ineffective to continue putting WD-40 and Band-Aids on it.
Yeah.
When I look at this, I'm looking for a report similar to what I would tell a client or a neighbor, relative, what exactly is going to be, in your best estimate, the life of this bridge. The bridge is 110 years old. We're looking at bridges now in Michigan that apparently have much less lifespan that are newly installed. One of the questions that came up is, are we buying a 72 Plymouth and going to be putting a lot of, not to pick on Chrysler, but are we buying something that's going to need an awful lot of work? And are you going to be able to tell us that so that we can make an informed decision? Because I don't want to be in the position of having to go to a Kroger off the island or a CVS off the island because everybody hates the decision that we made.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the process that we go through with these preservation projects is looking at that. We frequently work on bridges that are, circa 100 years old. Like that one slide earlier had the Rock Island Arsenal Bridge from the 1890s that we are still involved with that, keeping that operational. This one may involve some significant repairs, but once repairs are done, as long as they're maintained, you can keep these going for a very long time, as long as they're well maintained.
I'm 66. What's a very long time?
67.
It all depends. You can set a timeline of what you're looking for, and we can make things to meet those. If you're looking for some, like you said, a Band-Aid or something, we can limp it along year to year. But if you're looking for a complete, if you're looking for a 50, 75-year lifespan, the amount of upfront cost is going to be bigger on that. But one thing, a lot of with these steel bridges and stuff, is that you can do a lot of repairs to them and maintain them and improve them over time. You can add to steel a lot more than you can to concrete. But a 50-year additional lifespan would not be unreasonable, I don't think. I'd have to talk to some of our more design-focused people.
Find out
But
in 90 days.
yeah.
One other thing. It is a swing bridge, which is going to require examination in both the open and closed position.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to do that last year with your 2023 inspection?
Yes. We looked at the structural parts of the swing span don't really change too much when you're between closed and opened, but we looked at the operations at the pivot pier, looked at what happened when the load was transferred onto that, when it opened, things like that. We did look at that while it was operating. So
You're going to be doing open and closed inspections. What's the amount of downtime for traffic crossing that bridge? And I understand you have the boat.
Yeah.
But when you open the bridge, like you would for ships, boats, how much time are we talking about in terms of downtime? Is that going to be hours, days, 2
No.
weeks?
That's usually the amount of time we need, is because what we're looking at is dynamic changes more than the static changes or the static condition. So we're looking for, as it's actively moving, what's going on. And then a little bit while it's in rest position and when the locks are in place and things like that. But it would be no more, we may have to do it many times, but it would be only a few minutes at a time, if that's what we're looking at.
The bridge, again, is 110 years old, and many of the pieces, and thousands of pieces, I'm assuming, you're going to be looking at like the gearbox that swings the bridge open and closed. Those may be specialty parts may even been specialty parts back when the bridge was built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you going to be able to identify and locate sources where we can replace those, or are we going to be looking at having to have special orders, special manufacturing, and what would will you be able to detail the cost in $2,024 for that?
Yes, absolutely. And you're hitting the nail right in the head. There's only 3 or 4 manufacturers in the United States that work on movable bridge machinery, and it's 90% custom. Every now and then we can sneak a off-the-shelf gearbox into a bridge, but everything out there, I'm sure, is custom, and to replace it in kind would be custom. But that will be part of our breakdown for you in the asset management plan. Is if we made something more contemporary, this would be the cost. If we did replace in kind, this would be the cost. And then there'd be maintenance impacts for replacing kind versus an enclosed gearbox. Those types of things will be included.
We solicited bids for the work that you're proposing for us, and one of the companies is considerably higher, one of them is considerably lower. Without identifying which one is which, what do you bring to the table that is unique to M&M as opposed to another firm?
Well, the first thing is what Brad's been able to convey is their structural experience with it. But then I think with Laura's statistics, she shared how often we're doing this type of work. And we are a very niche firm, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. I think in this case it's good in terms of your line of questioning, because I wish it was every 6.5 days, but it's usually like 6 inspections 1 week and none for a month. But yeah, average. But yeah, I think that it's hard to surpass our continual experience with this niche industry. And Modjeski is very nimble because we're small. And they're also very good about keeping us involved with national committees in the railroad side and the highway side. So we're involved at the ground level for inspection standards, design standards, rating standards, the software that's created for it. So I think it's just an experienced and nimble team.
Good for now.
Go ahead.
No, I was just.
If you were to get the job, what part, or would there be any part of that bridge that wouldn't be included in your inspection? Or would we be getting absolutely everything that's part of that bridge company?
The only thing that we really wouldn't do is geotechnical, so subsurface in the soil, boring, that kind of stuff. We would not be involved in that. But anything above the ground line, anything above the below the water line, we're going to do that. We're going to take care of looking at the causeway, that little single span bridge at the end there. Looking at all the conditions of that, looking for any kind of, erosion of the causeway, electrical, everything. We're going to look at their backup systems. Fishbeck is going to help us out looking at some of the facilities. They do a lot more facility building type inspections. We're going to be looking at the toll plazas, any of the buildings that are there, basically everything.
So from east to west, or from one end to the other, it'll all be included.
Yeah. And we'll even look at things. A lot of times in a bridge inspection, you also look at the approach roadways back to basically the next intersection. Make sure that the signage is correct and properly labeled and things like that for advanced warnings for trucks and things like that. So, yeah.
Jim, can I follow up on your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
What Jim was just asking, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. He talked about the causeway, but is the three other areas, there's the toll plaza area.
Yep.
When you looked at that, there's those two, let's just call them prefab buildings.
Mhm.
And then the roadway itself where there's asphalt and where there's a little bit of cement, I think, from one side. Are those areas to be looked at?
Yes. Yeah, between the bridge and that other little bridge, those buildings, those prefab buildings that are over there, the toll plaza, all of that. Basically, whatever property they currently have at the site there, we're going to be looking at.
You mentioned in your presentation fresh eyes, because I know you'd done the inspection in July, and I assume that, I know you're going to do a very good job, but you said from Fishbeck and Great Lakes Engineering, you're going to be relying on that for the fresh eyes as well?
They'll be part of the team, yes. We're going to have a three-person structural inspection team comprised of myself, one inspector from Great Lakes and one inspector from Fishbeck. I'll be guiding them kind of, you know, this is how we got to here, this is what we found, kind of directing, then they'll take a look and they'll give their assessment of it. We'll use our previous report as a skeleton for the current inspection, and then they can flesh it. They can agree or disagree with what we find. We don't have any egos as far as that. We represent the bridge. We want to do what's best for the bridge in the traveling public. That's kind of what our mandate is as bridge inspectors. We're protecting the public safety and stuff, so we're not going to be offended by them disagreeing with us or anything, so.
Excellent. And you mentioned geotechnical, is it part of it? Something that did come up is on the Riverview side of the toll bridge, there's not just one Superfund site, which is McLouth, but also a former BASF site on the other side that's has some pretty nasty stuff in it.
Yeah.
I do know there's an active calcium hydroxide leak from McLouth right now going into the McGuagan Creek, which is like a basic substance. You probably all know that stuff better than I do. But that's not something I assume would be in the scope of what you all look at if there was some issue with the soil there or anything like that, right?
No, that would be more in line if we were going to do some kind of major rehab that would involve disturbing the soil or doing any kind of fresh construction or excavation or anything like that. That would go into more of an environmental aspect of it, which we're not including with this.
Would like repaving the road around that toll plaza?
No,
include
that
really,
usually
no?
wouldn't
Okay, gotcha.
involve anything like that.
Just one real quick question. It was brought up with the previous consultant, the question about the report indicating those things that were bad and the things that needed to be replaced, but also is equally important, the condition of good components of that bridge and the longevity of those components.
Yeah.
My assumption is your asset management plan, because I've worked with Fishbeck before on some of the asset management plan work that we've done for our wastewater and our water systems. You basically lay out all components of the structure or the asset, and you indicate whether it's new, old, or otherwise, and what the perceived longevity is of that. Is that a similar approach to what you would be doing here? So you would be considering all components, good, bad, and really, really bad? Like needs to be done right now?
Yeah. I don't know if we would inventory every single bolt and stuff like that. We would do more as components, as like the trusses, the truss bottom cords. We'd separate it into pieces like that, or stringers, or the floor beams, or the abutments, or the roadway railings, whatever. And we would give that kind of assessment on those. Now, if we do, when we do the load rating, we would probably do a fatigue analysis on it, where you lay out how many cycles of vehicles can go on has it been through, and how many more can it take before you start getting cracking and things like that, because fatigue is a issue on these very old bridges that they've seen millions of vehicles go on them over their lifespan, and you can calculate how much more it's going to take before they start wearing out. Some things, a lot of components on the bridges has infinite lifespans, and that'll be determined, and we can lay out that kind of detail.
I notice on your schedule here, you have a notice to proceed
Yeah.
for January 15th, which obviously that date is passed.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you would still be able to keep with your 90-day schedule, and understanding that the notice to proceed obviously is going to happen later, but 90 days out from that? Or are there components, weather conditions, staff availability, equipment availability that could impact the schedule you've proposed?
We can, I believe we can keep to the 90-day schedule. Like I said, the issues are going to be the weather for getting the access equipment out there and the underwater inspection. If the time frame goes into, April, things like that, the underwater can be April, May, the underwater can be done during those times. The boat can probably get out there before then. So that's not too much of an issue. We do have some lead time on things like the load rating model and the document reviews and preparing all that and permits and stuff like that. So we can get all that stuff done and be ready to go as soon as we can get out there. And I think we can still stick within that. The one good thing is that the underwater inspection is not going to really influence the load rating. There's very little things that would be wrong with the substructure below the water that could be problematic for the load rating of the bridge. So that information doesn't need to be really included in the load rating.
Go ahead.
Quick question just popped into my head.
Yeah.
When you calculate the load rating and make your determination, will you include things on something or things that we can do or that can be done to improve that load rating?
Yeah, the load rating definitely can influence or inform our decisions on repairs. It will identify what the weakest link in the whole bridge is, basically. And then we can go from there and figure out what needs to be done to move that up the line. And you can continue to go, you can set what your load, what load you want to carry, and you can do as many repairs as needed to bring it up to that, restore it to that. And there's also something that we've done on several major bridges is instrumentation, specialized instrumentation of bridges that don't load rate particularly well. Load ratings are based on theoretical what's going to happen to these members and stuff. And we can do instrumentation where we attach gauges, strain gauges, and different things to the beams and find out actually what's going through it. Because there's complex interactions that a lot of times in the load ratings you simplify down to instead of 3D, you might go to a 2D model. And instrumentation can give you exactly what is really happening. And then we can use those numbers to inform a more refined load rating. It's not going to give you, taking this from 7.5 tons to 30 tons or something like that. But if you're close to getting what you want or what you're looking for a load rating, you may want to do that or try that. It's not a guarantee, but it has been done in a lot of times on bridges we've done that. So.
Thank you.
Carl?
Two final questions. And not meaning any disrespect, but you're coming to us tonight wearing two hats. Number one is we're looking for you to work for us as a potential purchaser and operator of the bridge, and you just completed an examination and report, as you've indicated, for the seller. And are there any issues or confidentiality agreements or any kind of matters where you're going to have to choose one or the other? Or are you going to be able to look at the seven of us and the community and say, we have absolutely no issues with anything that we have had in terms of a prior relationship or the current relationship with the township?
Yeah, we thought about that.
And again,
long-
meaning
long
no
term.
disrespect, it's just the two hats.
Yeah, no, that's something we thought about long and hard before we started this. We don't have any confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements with the current bridge owner. We actually asked him before we bid on this whether he thought there would be a conflict, and we talked to our legal counsel and discussed that. And we do what's right for the bridge, like we said. We are going to not sugarcoat anything. We didn't sugarcoat things with him when we found some critical findings during the inspection that resulted in reducing the load posting. We had to have that conversation. So I think having Great Lakes and Fishbeck also as our backup and our second set of eyes on everything will also help us to steer clear of those situations. And I think we can definitely navigate that and not. I don't have any concerns that I'm going to or that we're going to represent one or the other. We're going to just tell it to you like it is. We're not going to sugarcoat it for one side or the other. It is what it is.
That was one of the 800-pound gorillas in the room for me. The second one you touched on very briefly, when the load reduction, if my calendar is correct and my memory is decent, came about the same time as your report ended. I have concerns, and I'm not asking that you address those at this point, but those are going to be big concerns for me why we went from a higher rate to a lower rate with this bridge. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not, but I do want to give you the opportunity to say, no, I can't talk about that at this time.
No, I think we can talk about it. We found some critical I won't get into the specifics of what we found, but we did find some problematic members. We notified our load rating team at the time. They did a spot load rating where they looked at those specific members, did a capacity analysis, load rating analysis of those members to determine what they were. We notified the owner immediately. I think we had the numbers within 24 hours, maybe 2 days. What he needed to post it at, and then proceeded to make those changes. Now, that being said, we did not do a full load rating of the bridge, and when you do a full load rating of the bridge, you can have some things that crop up that might not be readily apparent to an inspector who's doing a condition inspection, because condition-wise it looks good, but the design and the connections and the way it all interacts may not be good for the loads. I don't see it dropping any lower than what it is now, but and if those repairs those members that were deficient are repaired, which there's supposed to be some repairs being done, it could increase the load rating back up to what it was before.
To be more,
Go ahead.
To be more pointed with Carl's question, yeah, I know your job is not to say buy this bridge or not buy this bridge, but if you were to find that, in let's say 5-10 years, it might make more sense to replace this bridge than invest in it. Is that something that you would tell us if that's what your analysis finds?
Yeah, that would be part of our asset management, have a replacement cost figured out. One thing with these movable bridges is they're very unique, and one good thing is that we have done a ton of them. We know generally what it takes to replace one. Not the specifics of every site that are slightly different, but we have a good understanding of what it takes. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I was very impressed with your deliverable of the proposal, and in it you briefly touch on your deliverables. What form will we expect those deliverables to come to us? What, paper documents, photos, CDs, spreadsheets?
Whatever you want. We've done all kinds. We've done completely digital submissions, we've done PDFs, we've done hard copies, we've sent some places 20 copies of a 1,000-page report, and we'll do whatever you'd like. Both. We send a lot of times the hard copies and digital copies with both PDFs and editable files and all kinds, everything in between, so.
Well, would you be including, for instance, with the asset management plan, I'm familiar with those, but say in your mechanical or electrical inspections, you find certain issues, would you be able to include sketches or drawings to us of what these are, what needs to be done or what could be done? Would that be something that we could expect to see?
Yeah, the mechanical and electrical condition assessment report, I think that's how it is in the RFP, would be like a normal narrative report that would show, describe the systems, how they work, what their conditions are, good or bad, and then prioritize recommendations for repair over time. I think it's midterm and long-term, or short-term and long-term in the RFP. And then as far as the asset management plan, we do have questions about that to clarify, but we're pretty flexible about what that looks like. Is that simply the report with some more costs and timelines? I don't know. We have done it where we have kind of mocked up views from other bridges. So say, we'd like to go to enclosed gear train here, and this is what it looks like on another bridge, and just be a photo of it. Those are kind of things, yeah, we can certainly, I think it would be helpful, to visualize a lot of that.
And would you be, as you pointed out, some of the parts are, one-offs or custom. Would you provide us, for say, a list of where we could get these things or who we would contact to do these things?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. No matter what, we could give you that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I do love your tie.
They're all M&M bridges. So.
Oh, really? That's even better.
The movable ones are around his neck, though. They're too small.
Well, it does show commitment.
That's right.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the consideration.
Yes.
Are we done?
I didn't have enough for Karen.
Thanks for coming.
We ran out.
Oh, we still got it.
Send the electronic
Okay.
version.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I think it's down by one.
We had one more set that we had at the bakery.
Oh. That's right. When I you have it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Safe
Okay.
travels.
Thank you. All right, guys, good interviews. Gives us something to think about. So that's what I would like the board to do, go and think about it. And I would like you to let me know if you don't think we can have this on our next meeting. And being with two, we put one on. If it doesn't pass, we go to the other one. So, if you can think about it, and
Or we could put it on as a blank
well,
and then have somebody, oh,
well,
I see what
that's-
you're
yeah,
saying. I
yeah,
see.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. We don't have to
Yeah.
worry if whatever is on there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't
be one or
pass
the
it, it's
other.
going to be the other one. So think about it. Feel free to talk to Derek about it if you have any questions.
We have a study session before the next board meeting, right, or no?
It's a closed session.
It's
just
a
as
closed
bridge
session,
update,
not a
relative
study
to this,
session.
though.
Oh, not relevant to this, gotcha.
Right.
Okay, I understand.
No,
Okay.
it's on something else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then we'll, hopefully we can proceed and get this part of the puzzle done.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. Nice job. Thank you.
Like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We did call it a meeting. Yeah.
So I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I want to stay a while.
Yeah.